And that's how you start a stream, boys and girls. Welcome to the community. No, we don't really want that. Okay. Just making some quick posts and we should be good to go. Yeah, I am muted. Oh, I think it's awesome. I think it's also awesome that it's all JoJo references. So, let us begin. Hello, everybody. This is Ride My Avatar, bringing you another podcast segment with our close and very personal friends that always been around. So let's go over everything that's fun about OverDressed today, and we're going to dive in with the group. And go ahead, as we have our special guest appearance is Vanguard Insider, and we have Anteiku Nation as Papa Anteiku, and then we have Mr. Knight. Well, we'll call him Angry Knight because he gets angry a lot about his streams. But hello, chat and everybody. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video segment. So, okay, let's see. Everybody can hear each other now, and Vanguard Insider, tell us about a little bit about your history, your backstory, what got you into this, everything like that. You know?
Well, it all started with my father and my mother, where they learned each other, and then they were happy. And then somewhere down the line, I was born. And no, we're not gonna go there. Um, well, my history with Vanguard is probably the history that we all share, or at very least a big portion of the community. We were at a convention or some place where anime was prominent, and I saw Vanguard being sold. I was pretty interested in the game. A friend of mine was talking about it, and it looked pretty fun. He showed me the anime, and he said the magic line, they actually play the game in the anime, and that was enough for me to start playing the game. And at the beginning, I learned about Gear Chronicle, and there's a lot of symbolic between the clan and why I like the clan. We'll probably go in more detail, because if I'm going to go in detail here right now, we're probably be here till next week.
Yeah.
But I started picking up Gear Chronicle right around the mid-era of Geo, where Timely was a thing. That's also the time where I started playing the game. And then after about a year or two, when I really delved into the game, I started doing the YouTube channel, and basically from that point onward, we all know where everything went, and because you can see it on YouTube itself. And that's basically how I started the game. It was from an anime convention, saw Vanguard, learned about the anime. The anime was pretty dope. The game was pretty dope. And that's where we actually are right now. And Gear Chronicle is probably the place where I will always be. Like, there's always something Gear Chronicle related on my desk. So...
I mean, me and you both.
Yeah, I also have this one. This may be more in theme for you.
Oh my goodness, you have the same exact card as me. See? We both look, and cheers, the Chronofang Lord.
Nice.
But when you started out your YouTube journey and everything, like, did you ever think you would be like part of the big three, like known for being like the biggest influences on this? Like,
honestly, no. When I started doing YouTube, the concept of a big three wasn't really a thing, because it was back in 2017, 2018-ish, and the big name was Different Fight. Different Fight was around 19,000 subscribers at the time, and when I started, I was like, I wanted to be like him, like a big name in the community, but I never really thought that I would get there. The moment that I thought there might be something for me was when Solemn joined the YouTube sphere, and he had this big boost in subscribers where he rocketed all the way up to 20,000 in like no time. And when that happened, I'm like, okay, maybe the community, there is power to the community. I might actually be on that same level as I start growing with the channel every single month, and I got this slow growth, and at sometime I have this little bit of burst. But when I did the channel and started everything, I never really thought that I would be in a position where I am right now, where I'm apparently am referred to as the big three. So
yeah, very much so. But anything you guys got to ask Vanguard Insider and Anteiku, Mr. Light? Like, you guys always have great opinions and everything like that. It's also great to get your feedback.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a really good question, man. I was going to ask you myself, like, what inspired you? Like, what got you into Vanguard? And it's actually, I liked your answer a lot, man, because it's very similar to Knight and myself, where it's like the anime hooked us. It was seeing them actually play the anime, for like see them play the cards in the anime legitimately like we do in the actual real life game. And that's really awesome, though, that was the same reason why that got you pulled into it. And yeah, I mean, who would have thought you'd be part of the big three now? But like, I mean, that's just really awesome, though, to see, you come from where you were to where you are now. And that's a big inspiration for all of us, I think, in this community. And I think you contribute quite a lot, because I actually followed you on my other YouTube channel, which I subscribed to you with Anteiku today, and then I was just like, oh god, I was like, I forgot to do that. But it's I watched you a lot, man. I was in college and working, and I was just like, I really liked your content. I really enjoyed your content. I like what you bring to the community. What about you, Knight? Like, what do you got to say, man?
I have no opinion. I actually have never heard. No offense, I've never heard of you, but I'm also relatively new to Vanguards, as like an official whatchamacallit activity. So like before, I was extremely casual. I didn't really look up anything beyond like, oh hey, there's a new episode of the anime out, I'm gonna watch that, and then I guess cry because I have nowhere to play the game.
But that's, at least that shows me that I'm still have room to grow, because there's still so many people that just don't know who I am, and it means there's more reach for us to create. So that's actually a good thing, because if everybody already knows who I am, what's there to strive for next?
True. I mean, but that's also
That's
just
true. That's
partly
true.
that I'm a boomer when it comes to like internet culture. So, you know,
I mean, aren't we all boomers at this point?
Facts.
Pretty
true.
much. Pretty
I don't
much.
know. It's very interesting just to see, like, you brought a very interesting style to Vanguard, which is what made you think this way. Like, your way of creating a deck profile is so unique to even most content creators even today don't even measure up to it. I gotta say, you bring a finesse that most people I don't see, in any card game.
Well, to give a really simple answer to why my videos are so different to the rest is that it basically comes down to the core principle why I did the channel the way that I did. Because when I started doing this YouTube channel, there were already different fight was already out, and Solemn started doing his thing. But besides them, there were so many other channels like Card Protagonist was the name, Card Otaku Card,
Yeah.
something like that.
Anteiku,
Card
yes,
Taker was
yes,
a
yes.
thing, and of course we have Nexus Core. All these channels were already a thing, and they did their typical deck spotlights, their deck profiles, their fight videos, and anything. And I am a nobody with like a couple of subscribers. Like, how am I going to differentiate myself from the other big guys that are already established? How can I make people actually watch my content? And the only way that I could think of at the time was better quality than already was present in the community. Because if I already am saying the exact same things as the next guy or the guy after me, why would they watch my video over their video? So that's why I focus completely on the quality of my videos to be as high as possible for the time that I could spend into them. And how I get to the quality that I have right now was just time, trying things out, and the biggest thing is just looking at other videos, at other creators from different games, from different aspects, because a lot of my content or my style videos comes from different types of videos from a certain company. Because the deck spotlights that I have right now, they're the basis how I made them and their style of everything. They're kind of similar to the spotlights that you might see on Heroes of the Storm or League of Legends when they introduce a new hero, because that's
Ah,
where their template, how they did those videos, is basically the basis to my spotlight to the deck profiles that I'm using. So how they introduce stick heroes, in my case the new VR, the new trip R, and then every single segment how I detail about their new skills, their abilities, and then into the decks and everything like that. And that's basically how I come up with these type of concepts, or how I introduce these videos, by just looking on the whole realm of YouTube and try to think, what aspect of that can I take in my videos? What aspect of that can I take in my videos? And try to make my own style and my own mishmash of what I have on the channel right now. And it's just a lot of work, because one single video will probably take at least 10 hours to make if it's the highly edited that I have on the channel. And that's there are upsides to it, but there are definitely downsides as well.
yeah, but again, you do get the reward that you do put in this so much maximum effort for content creating. It's not even funny. Like, again, people will probably watch it to the end because the way you have it styled, everything like that, it's engagement, it changes, it pops, everything. So I think your algorithm works probably with you a lot.
I tried to experiment with that to do the best to its capabilities, but in terms of the algorithm itself, it's still a lot of mystery to me, if I'm gonna be very honest. That's things that I'm still trying to figure out how it actually works. But honestly,
You're preaching to the choir on
does
that one.
anybody actually knows how it works? Let's be real.
It's the
Always
expression at my
fighting.
job. It's a new day. Something new is gonna happen.
Exactly.
So, as we all know, we have OverDressed as our newest, biggest invention that Bushiroad has come up with. How does everyone feel about it? Like, let's dive into Knight's opinion. I really want to hear what he has for it. I know that you are more Zero content oriented, but because this could lead into Zero eventually, like, how do you feel? Because again, this might be the direction that Zero will take into.
So there's a couple perspectives that I want to touch on when it comes to OverDressed. The first would be the market share and like the business aspects of like like a reboot, right? So what comes with the territory with a reboot is you have to somehow make it worth your consumers' while, right? And I think the major motivation for this reboot was not necessarily like, oh, hey, we want to make more money, but more so, oh my God, Vanguard Premium is in a complete catastrophic state of being. We
I don't
need
think it was
to
premium
do
though.
something.
You mean standard?
Not premium, standard, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I meant. But the point is, like, it was in a place that was an unhealthy state of game, and it was not really conducive to quality of player life, right? So I think the reboot was a step in the right direction, and they further nailed that with their choice to make the entry decks very cheap, which, given the state of the world as it is right now, that was a good choice because it's affordable. It's not going to piss people off because all of their old decks are now worthless because of the reboot. And there's the added little bonus of it turning every deck into a game of Russian roulette with the OverDressed triggers or whatever the hell they call it.
The God trigger. The God
Yeah,
trigger. That's what I'm gonna call it. 100 million power. That is a God trigger.
Yeah.
And instantly
That's
saves you too.
unprecedented. Yes.
It basically makes what you did with Hamskay the other day, Anteiku, look like crap because
Okay.
this is like uber steroids compared to you roiding out that little guy.
I said this in my video when I was talking about overdress. It's like, what happens on that turn where you hit the God trigger and they hit the God trigger and everybody's just like, I got 100 million power. No, you got 100 million power.
It's
And then
literally the
we-
equivalent of that Spider-Man meme. You're like, oh, you hit an overdress, and then you're just pointing at each other.
It basically comes down who hit it the last, because the one that hit it first basically
Mhm.
gets it negated.
Oh, that's
Actually,
true,
no.
that's true.
No, the person that actually, yeah.
Hmm?
If they
Yeah.
hit it off the defensive though, and you give it to the rear, it still does. As long as you're in the dry check and you're in the dry.
Why would you give it to the rear if you're getting hit?
No, what I meant, like when you're swinging with the Vanguard and then you reveal it in drive check, you give it to the rear guard, you still will be able to get it. It'll be
Oh, true.
So
it depends. If the rear guard has a lower base power than the Vanguard, then it still doesn't hit.
I better hope there's a booster.
This is basically the TCG's equivalent of like the whole like Garmor versus Seal Dragon effect debate. Like, does Garmor's putting intercepts on Snowgalls somehow get negated and then reactivated, and then just forming a vicious cycle with Seal Dragon blockade
that's a good-
back in
yeah.
like set 3? Gotta love
Mm.
it.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation about that.
I guess
I
we'll just
remember
see.
that.
So, Anteiku, what is your opinion
Hmm?
on overdress?
Knight made a good point, and I was going to say it. I think with the state of the world with COVID, and shops not being able to, perform as well as they would normally had COVID not happen, I think reducing the cost of trial decks is brilliant. I also think that the publicity that was it Amazon? What platform was it? They said they were going to start showcasing the original animes up until the point of
Amazon,
overdress.
YouTube.
Okay.
Oh, I thought it was YouTube that everything was on.
I mean, it is on YouTube, but they actually are deciding to actually put it on a official platform now, other than like Crunchyroll or things like that. I think that's a brilliant idea because the thing that's hurt Vanguard growing as a card game has been the publicity. They never give us an anime on kids TV show like Cartoon Network, WB, whatever it may be, like Yu-Gi-Oh and things like that, or Pokemon. And that's something that it needed. You could walk into a Walmart, a Target, you could find, even to this day, you still see the three kings of card games: Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, it's what it is. In 2013, for a brief moment, you saw Vanguard in Walmart stores, and it was very, very brief. And that has hurt the overall growth of the game. Is how much did Bushiroad allow them to actually, publicize and promote their game? And because they didn't want to change certain things about their anime, that really hurt the overall growth of the card game and where people took Vanguard seriously. This is that opportunity for them to step outside that box, from a marketing standpoint, and actually let Vanguard grow to the card game that it deserves to be and that we know it to be. The price range for the trial decks is freaking brilliant. I mean, you look at old trial decks as what, $9.99, $10.99 for a trial deck. So now you've got it for $3.99. That's even less than half the price at this point. So like for $12, I've got 3 trial decks. That's freaking amazing, especially if you're like, if it's got a lot of foils in it, then you want to bling your deck out, then that's really budget friendly, especially in, like, again, in this time and place. And I really like the direction that they're going, and I hope that is the tempo move that we need to put Vanguard on the map and start competing with these other card games.
Well, again, if you remember, Cardfight Vanguard was top 5, top 6 still sitting in most trading card games. So it was in the top 4, if I remember, but now it's been holding in the top 6 range, if I remember lately.
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but also, yeah, the problem with the anime was, I think, because Vanguard highly represents its logo on the back of its cards. That was like the big thing preventing it. But with now actually having sleeves in the anime, we could probably see this on kids' public broadcasting. But
Did you saw the logo on the back of Yu-Gi-Oh cards in the anime? I cannot
no,
remember. if
it was
the
just that
case.
black
No, it was
circle on
always-
the back.
Oh yeah, just a black
Yeah,
circle without the logo.
Yeah, with,
Yeah.
with like a brown color around it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
so
was that so impactful though? Like, why was that such a big deal?
I
it's
believe
branding.
you may not sell your product just on kids' TVs and something like that has to do with it. If I'm correct, it all is kind of lawsuit-ish things because you cannot market towards children within children programming and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and
Mm,
again,
makes
I got you.
sense.
I got you.
they actually use the real life booster packs. If you look like in Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like that, they never open a single booster pack.
No, no, that's not true. That's not
They
true.
do?
In Yu-Gi-Oh GX,
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
they
first series, they had to store within the school.
Yeah,
where they
they
opened
did.
up packs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they did. Yeah. Yep.
Excuse you, they flew in cards and then they brought them in on a submarine and then they went to the shop. Okay.
Yup, I forgot that was like one episode, and that was a big thing.
Hey, if they never
I forgot
introduced
about
Card
that.
Capital, then Shinemon just instantly magically popped in cards with his briefcase every season.
Private Core, Cinnamon Arc.
Oh man,
Oh,
I miss GX, man. GX was a good part of
GX was
Yu-Gi-Oh.
the best era, like hands down.
so
Setting wise for me. Anyway.
so timely. Let's hear it. Let's hear your thoughts on OverDressed. Let's hear it all.
Well, my opinion about OverDressed, like probably most people have already seen my previous videos on the channel. I just launched another video talking specifically about overtriggers. Like most of the content creators out there, we're pretty hyped about the changes. Like most things that they introduce right now that they revealed so far are pretty good, or at the least are neutral. They have upside to downside, but they're equal neutral stance that we have right now. Like over triggers and the multiple formats, they're kind of iffy to some extent. Like you have the negative and you have the positive, but currently what we have right now, it's in the middle. But all the other aspects, like the better type of reboot that they did, and now nations instead of the clans, and better support and better planning forward, is such a big positive side for the future that we can actually believe that they are changing the game for the better, and that we can rely on the new team that they're hiring, that this won't be a repeat of what happened in the last couple of 3 years with the actual
Yeah, you're not
first
wrong,
reboot.
guys. I do
While
agree with
in
it.
my honest opinion, this is probably the actual reboot because the
wish more
game
mechanic
is actually
information.
changing for the better. So I'm personally very excited about what we have learned so far. Like this is just maybe 10% of what OverDressed actually is going to do. Like we have no clue. Wait 1 minute. I'll be right back for 1 second.
Yeah. Well, as I'll take the lead here for a quick second until our good friend Eric comes back. But yeah, I think OverDressed can really make or break the system. It's gonna. A lot of people are now calling this as way too Magic-like, and I get that the new director is Magic themed, and that's like the big issue is that it is a Magic themed set. Like if you look at it, everything now brought down from 24 clans, but I get it. Like it was hard to support everybody. Like even I don't know how it would go.
Yeah, but
Sorry
it
about that.
kinda... Oh no worries.
Things happened
no
a
worries,
bit here. Well,
Absolutely.
What were you saying in the discussion?
Okay, so I said that like the big thing people are skeptical at the moment, with is that it's like too Magic-like now, because the fact is now we're brought down to 5 from the 24, and clan identity is going to be lacking and missing. But I'm like, to be honest with you, clan identity really wasn't a big thing. Like
No,
if you look at it, what was it? Sorry, like 9 clans were almost the exact same cookie cutter formatted. They just did it, and V even got it worse because almost every deck did the same exact thing, but just in a different way and tried to claim it's unique.
No, exactly, because like I was saying before I was interrupted, like we don't exactly know what the actual direction is going to be, because the nation that we go to nation is probably a very good sign that balancing will be better, and that at least within the nations, between the nations, things will be more distinct.
Parkway, yeah,
But
could
we
definitely
don't
be
know
that way.
what the actual cards are going to do in
Factual,
the trial decks. We have no
you
clue.
know,
Like we
there's
have
so much
an,
possibilities.
a very
Um,
brief summary of what the
we
deck's actually
have
going to do,
zero,
but what
so
the
it
actual
could come to
cards
zero,
themselves,
so
the
just give
skills
it some time.
within the set, within the trial deck, we don't know so far. That's things we're going to learn in the coming weeks. Also, the new mechanic called persona right. We still don't know the exact details about it. Like once we get those information and we have a clue of what the first support wave is going to be and how these cards are going to interact, then we can actually make a very clear, distinct answer what OverDressed is going to be. Is it going to be just like the reboot that we had last 3 years, or is it actually physically going to change? Now, what you said about the game is going to look more like Magic, I can 100% understand why they think that. Like we have the 5-6 nation, which is similar to the colors. Like for Christ's sakes, the
Yeah.
colors themselves are very identical. Like we have
Yeah, but-
Kagero, which is red. What is red in Magic? It's destruction and damage dealing. Like it's basically Kagero. Then Royal Paladin might be white. The yellow is white. Like it makes sense with all the angels in white in Magic, with angel feathers and that kind of stuff. We have blue, which and red and green. Now that's some kind of.
That's
I think
Simic. That's a Simic
yeah, it's
variation.
like
Mhm.
Stokea is basically green plants, animals. Like I can understand also the artwork that we've seen so far in the live stream itself. I when I saw the image of the new units, I was like, I do feel a little bit of magic what we've seen so far, but once we saw the actual card artwork for the new Kagero boss unit, which is basically Chrono Dran and Chrono Jet,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that looks nothing like Magic. That is so Vanguard. That is so
Yeah.
Vanguard artwork. So I'm not scared about that. It's going to be more like Magic, because even if we look back 1 or 2 years, we already had artworks that were like kind of questionable Magic-ish. Like I don't know if you guys
Mhm.
remember the Gold Paladin cards. There were a couple of Gold Paladin artworks that were
Yeah.
they were weird. They didn't really fit into what Vanguard actually usually looks like.
Yeah.
And apparently, what I've heard was that the artworks that made those cards were actually the Dragonborn artist that didn't have a game to design anymore because Dragonborn was cancelled. So
Oof. Yeah.
maybe this is somewhat again that we have the same direction, but I would say I can understand why they think that OverDressed, what we've seen so far, looks very much like a Magic 2.0. But at the same time, if it works out like Magic, why is that a bad thing? Like Magic is super successful as long as it's still Vanguard, but it takes the correct elements of Magic, which makes the game successful. That might look like that Vanguard could actually be really, really successful because it's more mainstream-like, so people can easier step into the game, which is the whole point of such a reboot-ish.
Yeah. I mean, at least we have the creator aspect of what is it? He knows how to fix formats, luckily. That's like the big thing. Like he originally did fix like what was it? Shadowverse's worst format in the world, I think it was called. Like it almost made people quit the game completely. Or Shadow Legends or something like that, or whatever that card game was.
I believe it was
Well,
Shadowverse. Yeah,
I was about to say, yeah,
familiar.
Shadowverse.
I'm not familiar with his resume of the new game director, but what I've heard from Different Fight, which he knows him really well, what his credentials are. We are in good hands, from what I've heard. Like we couldn't ask for a better person to lead Vanguard right now that could actually make the game better than it could ever be. And the person is also very competitive. Has a good competitive focus because he also fixed the whole esports scene within Japan, which might look like that Vanguard, if he's going to take the same direction for Vanguard, that Vanguard is going to be very good, a very heavy focus on the competitive scene itself, which probably a lot of players would like, because casuals wouldn't heard about this because casuals can play the game however they want, but competitive players are dependent on the company to make the game competitive. So having a guy like him in charge, that's a good sign.
Like I like that announced in English that they're gonna have. I think they're gonna be a special English theme sets now. What are your guys' opinions on it? Like, we
Yeah.
have premium as a complete set of English only. Japan never announced it. We have, if I remember the video correctly, they said we will have also, like, similar to what Yu-Gi-Oh has, like their Cosmos or something like that. We would have separate clans, like, event clans, basically completely
Um,
English.
I don't think it's a bad move. I think it adds uniqueness and variety to the card game. And again, you reference Yu-Gi-Oh, so I have to do the same because it's the perfect example. Is that it never really hurts, because then that gives the I don't know if you want to say the global base, for all intents and purposes, let's just call it that. It gives the global base some variety and uniqueness, and then it separates us from the Japanese TCG. And I think that's very important because it's a topic we've all discussed: is how the Japanese meta affects the global meta. And that keeps us differentiated. And I think that's very important. I think it's very healthy for the game from a competitive standpoint and from a marketing standpoint. That just gives us a lot to look forward to. And now, it just, again, it's just a lot of variety. I don't see any flaws in it, and maybe I'm just looking through rose-colored glasses right now. But what are your guys' takes on it? How do you feel about that?
I think diversity in any situation, regardless of context, is always to the betterment of anything that it's involved in. Diversity will never hurt in games, in life, in whatever. It's always an enriching element in whatever it's involved in, at least in my opinion. Particularly with competitive games with their meta. Because, I mean, if you're only playing the same stuff again and again, then it's repetitious and it exponentially ups your burnout rates in players. So I think having something that stands out in the for regional differences, I think that's a good thing.
For me, I would say it's a 50-50 because if we have different sets, or maybe the contents of certain sets are a bit different for Japan and for us, so it actually becomes an OCG TCG situation, then you have the situation that we have right now with, for example, the promos. That if we are not going to get certain promos, and depending on what type of cards we're not getting, this could either not matter or it could really impact what we can play. Because if we look back what happened in VBT 11 with Storm of the Blue Cavalry, we basically got unplayable decks out of the set. Those promos were 100% needed to actually play those decks. And Japan got them with the set itself. Now, some of the promos we are going to get already got them, but not all have been officially confirmed. This is a negative part of if they're going to split the potential card pool. Now, at the same time, if they're going to do that with non-impactful card, then it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, then Japan is like, why do we get these impactful cards and maybe English gets really good cards? Like, that's not fair. What could also be is that if they create an entire new archetype, which is completely only for Japan, then it doesn't really matter because we cannot even get access to one of the archetypes cards. So it doesn't really impact our playability of any other deck at all. So that doesn't really impact it as much. So it won't really hurt. But we can also look at the other side where this is actually really good if we get two different cards in the same sets. And this is the same as you said, Anteiku Nation, about the marketing standpoint. Because the problem that the English side has with marketing and for shops is that we're usually a month or 2 months behind. And if we see, these decks in this set are pretty good, but the next set we have decks that are actually more fun or actually better, and then we get the previous set finally in English, why are we going to buy those cards if they're already not useful anymore with the next sets, or there's actually something that I want to play in the set afterwards? So might as well skip this. And that means that the actual sellers or vendors lose money because there is nothing to get for. We already know what's going to happen in the set afterwards. If they're going to do TCG exclusive archetypes or cards in the same sets and there's actually new, then there's a reason for us to, maybe I actually want to buy this set because we haven't seen the impact of these cards and they might actually be really, really important. So I can see it from both perspectives of why it's a good thing or why it could be a negative thing, and it all depends on how they're going to play their cards. Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, as I've seen so far, the game's still alive. It's still booming, so it is doable.
You can't kill it. You can't kill it. No matter how many one-turn kills Yu-Gi-Oh comes up with, you cannot kill it.
So yeah, that's my stance on that particular situation if we get English exclusive cards.
I would like to chime in though that it also has the potential to be interesting if they ever come up with like a global kind of like, and I hate this comparison, but like an international championships where you get the best from Japan, the best from Europe, the best from America, and all the other continents, and those regional differences clash in like the exclusive cards. Like I think we could see some very potentially interesting matchups with that. Kind of similar in the vein of like how some old like Nintendo games had 2 versions of every game. So like the Mega Man series had like Blue Moon and Red Sun. I think we could see some interesting like conflicts between those 2 archetypes that are regional exclusives if it plays out in a way that's balanced so far, that there's not like great disparities in the performance of both.
One thing I'd like to add too is that, you know, we're talking about them confining the 24 clans into 7 nations. You got to think about the deck creativity possibility. Now, and this is my question, and I don't know if you guys have thought about it, but what does that mean? Does that mean, okay, if I'm playing Dragon Empire, for instance, can I do retiring? And then I can pick like something that can do some discarding, and then I can pick something that maybe can like shadow clone. Like, does that mean, do we take like the abilities from all the said clans that fell in those respective nations, and now we can just kind of mix and mingle those abilities into one deck?
I think that's what's their goal is, instead of making it into subcategories. So now that no matter what, every set will have a little something for you. Like if it's not like your discarded or Mirakumo shadow clone jutsu here or something like that, multiple calling out factors or anything like that, you'll have this way of playing and adding to this new deck, or make a new deck or the old deck. Like what I think is what took a great start was making a budget deck and a main expensive deck inside it, and the budget deck was still competitive enough in the area where they could play, and that happened around, I think that was set with the Tachikaze and Shadows, Phantom Aeron or something like that, was really when budget decks started really taking off and being able to do something. I wouldn't.
Yeah, around that time, that's when they start ramping up indeed. Yeah.
So we could definitely see a benefit that way, and it would be really nice to see it continuing that, because again, who knows? Like a budget variants and stuff like that, you can do so much, but I get there are 2 triple Rs pretty much per of the rotation of the 5. Each one's getting at least 2. So it could go hit or miss in situations, and who knows?
Yeah, it depends on which direction they want to take the card development, because they can go the route where 100% you can mix everything, and it's very likely that we're going to see things like a Dragon Empire deck that might have some bind, might have some discard, might have some bounce and retire effect. But they can also just go with the archetype route where you could mix them, but they probably will work better if you stick them into their archetype. So a pure retire deck. So you might have cards that benefit from retire, so you probably won't put them together with also bind cards. So it depends on how they're going to develop these cards and how they're going to work. That it could go either way. Like I can definitely see them go for a archetype based strategy, but at the same time allow for mixing between them, so we can build these interesting things like an actual mix from Narukami with Kagero and see how that plays out and how they can do. Because
but aren't they the same thing?
Well, it depends. If you look at OG Vanguard, yeah, they are pretty much the same. But since G, they're pretty much different because binding wasn't a thing, except if you play Dungaree, but that's a different story. But I think the reason, if they aren't going with the potential mixing of things, then I don't see the reason why they actually went with the nation thing. Because if they're going to go with nation, at least they have some plans to do some interesting things with it. So I definitely see a future where we have a weird-ass deck that has some bind, has some rearguard retire, and some hand destruction shenanigans or something like that. I definitely see that happening.
Definitely.
For sure.
And also, of course, Bermuda Triangle is going to steal everything of every nation. That's 100% confirmed.
That's what they always do, man.
But now we'll get retired Bermuda. They'll start singing them to sleep, and they instantly fade. Poof.
We're not even talking about Bermuda.
Excuse
How
me.
hilarious would that be?
It isn't Bermuda anymore. It's Lyrical Monasterio. That's what it is.
No, it's who's red.
Oh.
Basically, the whale
hilarious
is
would it be?
the sin whale.
I think it would be probably the funniest thing ever if Lyrica Monasterio were the main antagonist of the new series.
Oh my god,
Hey.
that'd be hilarious.
I mean, it's literally Team Rocket, but then their balloon is a bit bigger.
No, it's the whale from ReZero. Okay, they're flying on the whale from ReZero. Who's Rem? Come on. Oh man.
All right, so what do we got next up on the docket?
Let's see. Possible overdressed key new mechanics that could be possibly moved over into Zero. Like if Zero were to gain, let's say, the ride deck or anything like that.
Don't they already have the right deck to some extent? Because you always get a grade 1 and a grade 2 in your opening hand?
Yeah, that is true.
Yes, but you're assuming that people will just stick with that, which I've watched people get grade stuck even since the new update for whatever reasons.
Because
it does happen.
Go ahead.
I mean, it does still happen because sometimes you don't get the grade 3. Sometimes you get the grade 1 and grade 2. Because I have gotten grade stuck since the changes, and I was stuck at 2. And I'm just like, really, this is what we're doing right now? Okay, that's fine. But the one thing is, we're talking about the clans being reduced to nations, and I think one thing that would be good, and I know Different Fight and plenty of us have all said this, is that if they would make the material system in the game. Okay, if you don't make it a universal system, at least make it based off the nation, so that, like, if I want Kagero, I can disenchant Tachikaze, or I can disenchant Narukami, or something of that nature, instead of it being individual clans. Like, that is so hard to grind materials for every clan. Or, like, maybe you've got 2 or 3 clans, and, like, I don't know. At least if they did that, if they reduced down or broaden the clans into the respective nations, I think that would help.
No, absolutely. Like, that's probably one of the weakest points of Zero. The crafting system is pretty obnoxious for how it is.
Yeah, you have to commit like a
See,
lot
I
of
disagree.
time.
Like if you compare it to a bunch of other different mobile games, like Zero's crafting system is honestly, in my opinion, its greatest strength. Because you can use it to get stuff you don't have, which is a game changer. Because you can craft things that you didn't pull, whereas in other games like Fate Grand Order, if you don't pull it, they're just like, haha, we have your money, sucks to be you. Or, like in Shadowverse.
I mean, I agree with that point, but it also defeats the purpose by the fact that we have 24 different currencies that we need to grind. Like, the sheer amount is so much. But the fact that you can craft cards you don't have, that's a pretty good plus. But also the fact that you cannot disenchant cards that you don't want, it's kind of annoying. Like, why do I have these 4 RRR Soul Savers that I'm never ever going to use again? Let me throw them away.
Soul Saver is a great card. I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill.
Yeah, but why do you need 4? Why does it have to be until you get 4? Then all of a sudden, oh, now I can disenchant this, or it automatically disenchants. And here's another thing, is that if you get 4 copies of one card and one of them happens to be an SP, you still don't get the little unit icon for your profile picture. You have to get all 4 of the normal copy just to get that profile picture in your collection. I think that's kind of crap. Like, if I got 4 of them, then I got 4 of them. Why does it matter if it's SP, if it's the normal one or not? Yeah. But that's just like a little pet peeve of mine about that aspect of it.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you. It's never fun having to collect a full playset of something, take it from the guy that does it every single month, where you guys don't. So I know it. Hey, I build every deck and I make content. Okay, we both do it.
Oh, dude, I've been trying with that Tachikaze, man.
We are unworthy.
I'm honestly very curious what type of direction they want to take with Zero after Legion, if I'm going to be very honest. Because Stride in itself is already kind of interesting how they want to implement that in the game. And I'm not necessarily talking about the Stride mechanic itself, because that's pretty doable. But more like what type of cards and tactics and decks that came out of the GR. I'm not so sure if that's very suitable for Zero, how it's played right now. But even then, if they're gonna do G, are they gonna do the reboot? Are they gonna skip
Probably
the
not.
reboot? And how are they gonna do OverDressed? Like, are they gonna overthrow like the entire game by then making it nation based? Like, what's gonna happen with the old cards? Because are they gonna make it a premium thing, or are they actually also gonna make different formats within Zero that players can play? Like, or maybe what also is a possibility that they're deciding that Zero is gonna do its complete own thing and just go into infinite Stratos and in a different direction. Like, they can just also take that direction.
I
It's
mean,
going to be interesting.
they
Go ahead,
were
Kyle.
already pulling cards from standard already into Zero. If you look at it, I even have one from the Bermuda set. This card right here got printed as a promo option for a Bermuda booster just to get. So they could easily just transfer them in slowly through the G era and make it progressively longer, and don't put in like gifts, because gifts will break that game, this game, and people will just take their phone and just throw it out the window and call it a day. You know,
I already do that.
but you're the angry knight, okay? So that's part
That's
of
the
your
reason
fight.
why I don't have it on my phone anymore.
Like, oh, I don't know, like it. But what my assumption is, it's gonna go through Legion. It will hit Strides, but then after Stride, they will do Overdress, and pretty much, if they're going to, they're probably split into two formats where you can play. One being a legacy format that kind of does what Overdress adds into it, so that legacy format just continues to play, and then you can have it play just straight up Overdress and have a way of it marketing Overdress as the TCG, having it on the cell phone.
But then you also get the question, like, if they're gonna do the split in formats, because I can never see them ditching the old cards. Like, they will probably riot everybody, like saying, "Oh yeah, all the gotcha you pulled, like, bye." Like, I think people will be pissed. Like, so they have to at least make a legacy format. But if they're gonna split in multiple formats, what are they gonna do with the resource game then? Because are they gonna keep the 24 clans and then add on top of that the nations? Or are they then going to say, you know what? Now we're going to do it in nations.
Well, remember, it's like how premium is right now. It would just, Overdress would just affect it like premium would be, you know?
No, but I mean more like in the crafting system department from the Zero game. Like, are they going to add the nation crafting gems on top of the clan gems, or they then decide, all right, we're going to put it back? Like, these are things they probably need to prep in advance, because these are questions that players will probably have.
Yeah,
See, I think. Oh, go ahead, Brad.
But the major thing you have to take into account is that they have at least another year to think about it. They're not going to worry about it. They're going to go like, how are we not going to make G broken in Zero at the moment without breaking everything?
Well, a part of the question too is how far will they do Legion? Because we got Legion support in G era where they started giving, like Vermilion, for instance, got a Legion mate, and other cards got Legion mates that originally didn't have Legion mates. So will they take those G units and put them in Legion to extend out Legion to prolong the game, catching up to the actual anime? I mean, how will they do that? There's so much speculation as far as, will we go into G, will we go into V, or now will we go into Overdress? And it raises a lot of questions that none of us really know what they're gonna do. And like, if you do go into G and you start introducing stride units, what do you do about the guarding system? Like, some of the G units were abusive in the TCG. How do you implement such a powerful, unwielding card in Zero and try to balance it unless you just nerf it into the ground? Like, it's a power.
They probably have to do it, because at some points they're gonna hit Phantom Blaster Diablo, and once they hit Phantom Blaster Diablo, they're in a big trouble, because that card was basically, you're gonna die because you cannot guard. The only way you could survive that is because G Guardians were a thing. But how are they gonna implement G Guardians in the game? Like, PGs themselves are pretty dumbed down, and you cannot dumb down G Guardians because they're super situational how they work, and they're integral to their deck engine. So.
Yeah. How do you do it? Unless you have to like discard a grade 3. Like, since our grade 3s are already our triggers, maybe you have to get rid of like a heal trigger like we did, and maybe we get a G guarding. But then still, how does that work since we don't guard? Like, we don't
you
truly
take an
guard.
impact of Shiryuki at that point. Like, look at it. Shiryuki is situational activate. Shiryuki is limited break, but Mandela Lord, whatever his name is, the one that minuses 1,000, it happens instantaneously on swing. So these will probably, as long as the condition is met, will trigger, and each G Guardian will be a separate conditional matrix that will have to do like they do with the PGs and stuff.
I think one thing you guys aren't factoring in is that this is a mobile game, right? And part of maintaining a game as a live service is ensuring that your community base is happy with their investments into your product. So I don't think they're going to make some really crazy ass additions and just completely flip flop how the game is created or works. So I think they'll probably take some cards from V Series or whatever and everything after that, and I think they'll either tweak them to fit the current Zero format and use them as PR cards, or I think they'll adapt them in such a way that it'll function like having like how we've got the three, like you've got the drop zone, bind zone, and then those other options. Well, I think they'll have it where there's like another option after bind, if what I'm understanding about how Legion Mate works exactly, or strides or whatever. But more or less, I think they're going to try and do the simplest ways to implement this without just completely invalidating the previous investments in the game.
But who's ready for Marakumo that hits like a truck when they miss because they're going to multi-attack like a fiend? Because that happens in Zero all the time now. But yeah, you are right about everything.
Yeah, we're not gonna.
We do have a lot of issues that G Era brings in with just the keywords alone and how decks relatively change and everything like that. Because again, Zero doesn't play like a normal Vanguard game where you would just toss everything to the wind just to guard, just to activate Brave or something like that,
Yeah,
there's one thing you need to keep in mind with Zero and the official TCG is that the competitive format that we experienced a couple of years ago during G will probably never happen in the game in Zero, because it's impossible to happen. Like Time Leap, I can already tell you now, Time Leap will do absolutely nothing in Zero, because Time Leap gets stopped by 1 or 2 defensive triggers. That means automatically in Zero it gets stopped. Like you're getting your 7, 8, or 9 attacks where your opponent's still at 11. They get no defensive, no defense, no defense. Oh, you're dead. No, but Zero is literally 1 damage. Well, that's half of my attacks that doesn't hit. Oh, no damage. Well, that's all my attacks that doesn't hit anymore. So a lot of these combo decks that we're familiar to in G that worked around the 11k pokes, because a lot of the competitive decks were around those 11k numbers, they probably won't succeed in Zero because of the defensive nature of the game. But that said, other decks that were more about high-powered numbers, they will probably be the big contenders. So expect some weird oddball clans and decks that suddenly pop up in Zero during GR than what we experienced in the past year. So don't expect Night Rose and Timely to actually dominate for most of the game. Maybe Night Rose.
We're going to see Asha dominate.
Asha would probably be really good with stand triggers.
Sure, Angel Feather, man. Angel Feather could get real big real quick.
Angel Feather's weakness, the clock. So no, until they fix that issue.
Yeah, Angel Feather stay too much time. Try to do the Refros loop. Shit! How many clicks?
Quick!
That's a test around the RPM per player. The APMs.
If anybody wins with the Refros route, I will say you are God at this game, because there's no way you're winning with the Refros loop.
No. None.
But yeah, there's a future glimpse for you, Knight, that you will have to experience once we get there.
Oh, goody.
So let's go on to, do you think your influence into the community can cause problems with growth of the game? What do you guys have on this feel?
Maybe I'm looking at it from a biased standpoint, but I hope not.
That's what we all like to say, right?
I try to be positive until this last video I did about the Tachikaze event, where I was super tilted, and I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about this right now. But I was going to be honest, because I think from a content creator standpoint, you should tell the positives and the negative of a game, and you should be honest. Like, don't just be positive or just say, oh, this is just super great, and not give your honest, true opinion. So in that matter, it's like, if I'm doing that and that negatively affects the community, I apologize. That's not my intentions. My intentions is to bring full, honest opinion to the table and tell you, at face value what it's worth. And if that affects the community in a negative light, then I sincerely apologize. I only want to grow the community and to influence in a positive manner, to get information out there and help bring in new players and help the player bases that already exist. So I'm not really sure how to answer that one, Avatar. I really just hope overall that it's not a negative influence.
But again, as positive and negatives happen, people take
Mhm.
random views and can twist and turn it into a negative because they're always half full. So again, like your recent video on hating on the gotcha saying could turn people off, because it might not have been
Absolutely.
intentional for you to do it negatively, but now
Mhm.
people are looking at that video and going like, that's not what I wanted. I don't want to be
True.
spending money into a game where I should be able to have enough gems to crack open everything.
True. Absolutely true. And if that's the case, then I do apologize. But at least people can make a decision for themselves. Like, do I really want to invest in this, and do I not? And if it turns them away, then maybe I save them the headache, and maybe I didn't. I don't know. But I could definitely see that point.
I mean, I can answer the question with a simple question itself. Like, do we impact the game potentially negatively? Well, let's say, for example, Solemn, I, and Different Fight were the only free creators on the platform. Like, we were the only creators. And we would all universally said the moment that the new update to OverDressed happened that the game is dead. If we did that and we were the only content creators, probably there will be had a significant negative impact on the game, because a lot of players that watch your content will assume that that's actually the case. This is the worst thing happened to Vanguard, and probably players will quit because of the words that we said. So I'm 100% confident that we could have a negative impact on the game, and this could either be by actually being negative, but it could also be by over positive, by being too positive about the game and not seeing the flaws it might have. So as a content creator, and I also touched upon this during the Cardfight panel, as a creator, we have the obligation and the cannot come up with the word for it, the responsibility to be honest to the viewers, because we are the ones that are probably between Bushiroad and the community itself, because we are analyzing everything, we are talking towards Bushiroad for the community, but also vice versa in some situations. So we have to be unbiased in every single situation as much as we can, and we cannot be 100% be unbiased because we're humans. But it's something that whenever I start the recording, it's always something that I keep at the back of my head, that I need to be aware of the position that I personally find myself in, that I could have a negative impact on the community or a positive as well. So this is definitely something that it's a fact. So there's nothing really that we can do about it that it changes, unless the only way that I can personally become unaffected by this is deleting my channel and start over again and only have one viewer, because then I'll probably have no impact on the community. But we all know I'm not gonna do that.
We're gonna now cut that. We're taking it. We're gonna take it out of context. He's deleting his channel, boys and girls.
That is clickbaity as you know what.
But that's also
You heard it here first.
But that's what you also have to worry about, is how clickbaity a title can be. Like, we had Solemn Vanguard, Solemn, like his, how much people were up in arms against him for like the longest time when he made there's going to be a rotation, your cards aren't going to be worth anything. Like, that whole video, like, that was...
Is that clickbaity though? Because the video speaks for itself, and it was very logical where he was going towards, why you saw the title and the thumbnail. And if I'm gonna be very honest, most of us, if they are saying, oh, this is not going to happen, they were probably in denial because the writing was on the wall. Like, I wasn't advocating it, because the reason why I didn't advocate is that I was aware that it will probably start confusion within the community, and I didn't want to have that on my name. Like if Solemn was the one that wanted to take that bullet, all for it. But at the same time, I can understand why he did that, because it was also very logical that was going to happen. And he probably made the decision that he want to at least give players a warning in advance that this is a thing that might happen. Because if he didn't make that video, this will probably never been talked in the community. And it will also meant that this actual reboot that happened just now would come out of nowhere. And it will probably meant a lot more uproar than we have right now. Now, at least a lot of community were expecting it to some extent, which probably made the blow of OverDressed a bit more bearable. So I think the video that he made was actually a pretty good video at the time that he could do that.
I think it's fair because we saw with G what happened to the secondary market. It crashed. And I mean, it crashed so hard that you could take some of the most top dollar cards and buy them from like chump change. Like we saw that.
I mean, you're seeing that now.
I got a new Luar deck for almost nothing.
Let's be honest right now. I mean, this SP right here I'm holding in my hand would normally be like a $30 SP. Right now it is $8, $2 more than its regular rare printing. And that's scary. Like, it got affected. It has changed the market immediately afterwards. Like, again, you know what Bermuda, like, we've all seen what Bermuda does to people's wallet. I can literally SP out my deck because it's budgetable right now to do so. That's scary. I have never been able to budget a Bermuda deck for SPs.
I mean, I will say one negative light is that, and I see this with 50 card because like I see a lot of his posts on Twitter, and it's one thing is like he's saying right now, because now we know that OverDressed is coming in April and Mayish. Now people are like, do I really want to buy the current stuff that's still going on in V series? Like, do I still want to buy this? Like, how does that kind of hurt the market from our standpoint? Because now it's like, well, we know something bigger and better is coming, something new, and the game's changing. So why do I want to invest in, these other sets that still remain leading up into OverDressed? But they were still smart in this regard, in the fact that they're still supporting premium. They're still supporting premium with what is it, V? Like I apologize, I can't remember what the name of the new one is.
Yeah, they call it
like
V premium. So
V premium. So like they're trying to keep the secondary market from crashing again. Because if they had not made that move, then everything would have just lost complete value all the way way around, like it did before with G, when it was just like, okay, you can't play anything from prior to G, because now you got to play this version of Vanguard. At least they did try to, I guess, put in a safety net in a sense in that regard. But I do hate that the market is actually being affected in that sense, and I think that's probably why you're seeing the reduction in the value of cards now, is because they do know that OverDressed is coming. And then now, how many people are going to play premium? How many people are going to play V premium versus standard? And which one can you afford to play? And that's just going to be the bigger question. And we're going to see in time which format dominates outside of standard.
Well, you have to take into the fact that V premium itself is a major aspect, is that most of premium decks that went into just being straight into premium can just play their standard deck, just get a stride deck. And that wasn't as hard as people made it out to be, because that was the big issue, was people didn't understand that they now have 2 official strides that you can get from premium collections that are dirt cheap at the moment. They are not expensive, and you can get a full play set at them. And then this third one will probably give us G Guardians, new G Guardians, which everybody's been waiting for, because that's like the big thing, was everybody needed a power up to their G Guardians. Because if they don't have that, then you really can't play. But then now we'll have probably what's going to happen in the next premium set is going to be a new stride and a new G Guardian. Now your complete 16-card G Zone is now complete with 3 sets alone. And then they probably won't have to do anything, because it'll bleed in and kind of fix itself.
No, I can see that, and I totally understand what you're saying.
Like, for me, the best part that they did for this reboot, because you cannot prevent the market crash when you do something like a reboot system in the game. Like, you cannot prevent it because you always have people that will quit a certain format, or they think that their cards are invalid, or they lost all the value but at the same time, you don't know. But the best thing that they did about this reboot that they didn't do last time is that they already out of the gate confirmed not only the formats but also direct support sets. They already confirmed a premium collection set, and they already confirmed a V collection set. Like 3 years ago, when the original reboot started, they said, "All right, we have premium and we have standard. Here's our support for standard. Premium, yeah, we'll talk about it next year about that one." Like, that is the reason why the market crashed so hard at the time, because they didn't even confirm that they actually going to support the format. Like, we got nothing about it. At least now they actually said,
Yep.
here's the product for that format, and here's the product for this format, and here's the rest of the product for your normal, typical standard format. So that is, at least they showcases steps in the right direction, that they learned from their mistakes a couple of years ago with the previous reboot, that they at least acknowledge what they did wrong. And yes, you're never going to prevent the actual crash that we see right now with the Bermuda set and with the Sanctuary Guard trial deck, as well as Clan Selection Volume 1 and Volume 2. Like, the hype for those sets definitely dipped down a bit since the announcement of OverDressed. But at the same time, there will probably be a lot of players that came in during V that will say, you know what, I want to keep playing with my older cards. I want to keep playing with standard, and at least they're going to support the format. So I think in the long term, we're probably going to bounce back from these crash that we have seen in the past. It happened before. We bounce back, and it will probably happen again, because at least premium is the most stable format, because we know that it will survive, especially here in the West. So the prices might tank for standard cards right now, but once they are also seen playable in premium, you definitely will assure that those prices will go up again. Like, that's a given fact.
Yep.
Otherwise, some of old rares like Purple Trapeze and Yellow Bolt have no reason to be expensive as they are.
Exactly.
Definitely. So, Knight, any opinions on the influence on the growth, or would you like to go on to topic number 5? Your choice.
Yeah, I do think that, and this is not necessarily just like an indicative thing of like Vanguard in particular. It also has to deal with like other areas of the internet in terms of relation to content creators. Part of it is that people have a tendency to conflate like charisma with having accurate information, like, or being correct, right? So that's it's part of being part of the conformity effect, as if we want to use social psychology terms. And I'm going to go off on like a psychology tangent, but I promise it has a point.
These are psychology nerds.
we conflate these people that we see who are popular on the internet and who have these charismatic personalities as having the most correct information, and that's not always necessarily the case. So when you have certain content creators, I won't say who, for, just to keep things civil, that say certain things or make certain statements in damning terminology and videos, that in turn dictates trends you'll see in certain circles, like with the Vanguard Zero community taking certain creators at face value without really bothering to try and do research on their own. They just take things at face value, and in turn just completely write off certain decks that otherwise would be pretty good, So I think that you brought up a pretty good point, Mr. Time Leap, about the whole like noblesse oblige, like that we as content creators have to be unbiased and factual, but we also have to be upfront with what is our opinions and what is not, right? And I think the sooner that people become aware that content creators are human, that we are operating with that, like the same information that they are, that the community as a whole is, I think that we'll see a lot more healthy trends in both the TCG and in Zero. My take personally.
I agree. I can definitely see what your standpoint is, because I see this also in other communities outside of Vanguard or outside of TG. Like, I'm somewhat involved with the Genshin community, and I can definitely see that also happening right there as we speak. So I can definitely see what you're aiming towards. So
Yeah,
at the same time, it's a difficult thing to learn to distinguish the two, even as a creator itself. Like learning how to differentiate your opinion from facts, but also explaining what is your opinion and what is actual facts. Like those things blur a lot of the times.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
even Different Fright mentioned that he doesn't like how much influence he has over like meta trends in terms of Zero. Because I actually was curious what his take on that was, and it was a stream that he was doing slow stuff in. So I actually got the chance to pick his brain a bit. And
I
he
can
said
understand
something
that
to that
take,
effect. Yeah.
Yeah, because some people just take.
uh,
Oh, go ahead.
no, go.
I apologize. No, I was just gonna say some people take what content creators or big influencers, they take what you say as the gospel, and like this, like there's no in between. There's no gray area. It's black and white. Either it's good or it's bad, and that's it. And it's it's not the content creators' faults. It's just people not
No, of course not.
wanting to think outside the box and just be like, hey, I see their point, but I might want to take a spin on this, and I might want to try this little combo or this little number right here and see what happens. And sometimes you are chastised in your own community for that, because it's like, oh, you're playing that card, like, why would you play that card? It's so bad, it's so terrible. Like, it works for me. I mean, I played Chain Blast Dragon with Dauntless for a little bit, and I was doing things because Dauntless just wasn't wanting to work for me. But as taboo as it may seem, if it works for you, it works for you. But that is also just, I think that's anything, because you see that in Hollywood, you see that with big influencers in any community, like you were saying, Mr. Timely, where like there's the negative and the pros and cons to it. And I mean, it happens, unfortunately.
Well, it also comes down to what I think is the supply and demand issue also is added into this function of meta, because let's take in the account you have a way of testing all these new cards, but we really don't have a way of testing these new cards before buying them. So either you're going to spend that $100 and get the thing that surefire is going to play, and then don't worry about all the other bloated junk that could possibly make the deck in a different style, because again, you're limited to the resources we have. Since there is no real Vanguard IP with free cards that you can play and test out and go like, okay, I want to test this, this, and this. Like, again, Anteiku, how many cards are you missing from Magus right now? But you would love to play Magus. A complete.
Oof. I'm still missing two Pentagonal and then a few grade 2s to actually flesh out the deck in its entirety.
That's what I mean. Like, you're missing cards and not having access to the cards consistently to keep testing them out. The rental deck system is a really great feature, but it does eat up resources pretty quickly. And you can't, again, with card games, it is limited to the money you have. So again, you're going to take more content creators' face value as gospel, because the fact is, again, not everybody has deep pockets that can draw from a well to grab these older cards that might be sitting at $23 or something like that, magically out of range for a secondary wave because you're just starting out. So you're like, again, that's that big issue you get where it's supply, demand, and what you have at your resource handling that just can't always be there for your testing purposes to try something different. And then you kind
The
of
one
also
thing.
goes. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Knight. Go ahead.
But that also goes the other way, right? Because older players or returning players are more likely to have the older stuff, right? So there's that market incentive to try and come up with some unusual combos that work or are viable in the current meta, right? Because a lot of people are going to have like 4 left, 4 Garmor, and just a bunch of older cards that they can try to make decks that are competitive with older stuff mixed with the new stuff. Like Ethics Blau is the poster child for this, right? So like there is always going to be an incentive to try and make new decks with older stuff, right? But if they're just saying like there's no point, then we're not going to know about that, because people aren't going to be inspired to do the testing themselves. Like even if they have full play sets, they're just like, this content creator said this was the only good stuff in the set and that anything else isn't worth trying, right? But on the same token, if you have that older stuff, there's no downside to trying to experiment with it. That's my point, I guess.
Well, the one saving grace for Zero is that we do have those challenge fights. In that sense, it does give you an idea of what the deck does. It does give you a fair, like, no stress, no strings attached, format to be like, okay, I'm just going to go to the side. I want to play not Tachikaze, because you can't play Tachikaze,
You weren't playing
unfortunately.
Tachikaze.
But I want to play.
He wants to play Tachikaze so bad.
It's so bad. It's terrible. It's terrible. I will play it. It's gonna happen. But anyway, but you can play Gold Powder. You can play, Narukami or something like that, and get a small taste for like what the deck is capable of. Like, I mean, so there is that Zero, at least I would say, they did do right in that regard for the player base, especially if you're new to the game and you have no idea what Vanguard is and you've never seen a Vanguard card. And let's be honest, there are players in Zero who've never seen the TCG. They've never seen the anime or anything, and they're just new mobile game players saying, "Hey, this card game was cool."
That's probably better for them because it's probably easier to learn Zero from knowing Vanguard than knowing Vanguard and then trying to learn Zero, because the game is completely different, if I'm going to be very honest.
Completely
Like, I had
different.
to rework my brain for that.
Oh, you and me both, man. I went into it thinking, okay, this is how I'm going to play this strategy. This is how I'm going to do this, thinking TCG like, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait. This isn't working out like I thought it was.
But yeah, that really comes down to a lot of that. But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of good information, and let's have Light bring us on the final. Knight.
Yeah, you've been doing that all day. I wasn't gonna say anything, but since you wound up,
I know. I'm sorry. It's a long day. I've been running around.
I'm memeing, bud. So communities is self-spiraling echo chamber. Or wait, no, that's
No, we already did the meta. You kind of slipped that in from your 4 into it, and then we kind of started into it.
Does that lead us to 0.5 or 0.6?
It's 0.6 at the moment. We slipped into 5
Okay.
without even mentioning
Yeah.
it.
Communities is self-spiraling echo chambers and the issues that come with that in terms of existing as a community.
So you need to elaborate for a lot of people that don't have the
Yeah.
college information.
Yeah,
level
sorry,
here.
I don't.
Layman's term, Knight. Layman's term.
Okay, sorry, it's not
The
intentional, I
communities,
promise.
echo chamber. What are these
Okay,
names?
So basically, an echo chamber is the idea that you exist in a group, right, that perpetuates the same ideas. That it's like, oh, hey, Dota is great, Dota is great, Dota is great. Instead of like, and then you've got a guy coming over here and saying MLB is good, and then then that. Sorry, I'm getting messages on freaking Discord right now. I'm trying to
Focus,
Do not
Knight.
have Discord open. Then.
basically it's
Priorities.
dogpiling on things that are not necessarily reflective of the norm, right? So if you have an entire community that's saying Dota's great and amazing and any other deck sucks, you're going to have issues getting other alternative ideas into that cohesive chamber, right? So it's in the way that this manifests that we see the most often with the Vanguard Zero community is just the obsession with tier list and obsession with the top dog meta decks, right? And those concepts are spiraling in certain groups, Discord servers, circles, whatever, group chats, whatever groups you may have to exist in as a group member. You will see a lot of the same ideas, assuming that it functions like most groups you'll see in online interactions, that they tend to perpetuate the same ideas while spitting on those that might differ from the norm.
I mean, that is basically a common fact for human civilization to some extent. Like this happens everywhere that you search. Like, this is probably the origin problem of the whole conspiracy issue that's going on, because people keep themselves in one group and one person is telling something and they all believe it, which means they all keep telling each other like this till they're crazy, and then you get this stuff. This happens everywhere. This happens in Vanguard, and as you explained, this is all that you get within Zero and also within the official TCG.
And you also get this in politics too. Welcome.
Well, like everywhere. This you can find this everywhere. This is unavoidable because this is how we humans are wired. And this is also something that comes back to the whole point about content creators being they have an obligation and also a responsibility to conveying facts and opinions and all differentiate between them. And this is also something that we need to keep in mind when discussing something or talking about the tier list, because we are probably, and I'm almost 100% confident about this, an instigator of certain circles. We say something, some
We
group
poke
will
the
take it
bear
as
too
face
much.
value, and that will then start a self-fulfilling prophecy within those groups. And
Exactly.
and this is the reason why I personally take a stance where I want to be as broad as possible. Like when I do a deck spotlight, and I'm only do it for the official TCG because I'm not really into Zero with content creation. But that's the reason why I like to highlight multiple strategies, multiple deck builds, and also I usually don't take a stance on competitive builds because I know for a fact if somebody wants to play competitive, they probably already know what the best builds are. So why you're looking at my deck spotlight or my deck profile video, because you probably know already what you're doing. So
Yeah.
I like to explore different avenues, different ways that you can play the game, which hopefully breaks open these barriers that some people might find themselves into. And the only way that these circles, we get rid of these circles, is try to basically inform the community about different aspects of the game. Might this be deck builds, meta tier lists, or whatever? This is something that can only be fixed if people get informed, and the only way to do that is to get to the source. And in most cases, that source is some kind of content creator, and it doesn't even have to be us YouTubers. There are podcasts like what we are here right now, but also we have written information, like people make blogs and all kinds of stuff. Like this is something, like most of these things don't randomly start out of nowhere. There's always one person that starts this, and this is usually a person with a name to it, which people look up to, because you're not gonna listen to your crazy uncle Joe that's never heard of
Joey's awesome.
that tells you that Dauntless Drive is the best deck, even though OverDressed doesn't even have a Dauntless Drive Dragon. But that besides the point. Like, there's always somebody with a certain name, and that person needs to be educated, if he isn't, about the responsibility that he has within the community, because this is something that it isn't going to fix itself, and this is never going to fix itself, because if it does fix itself, we don't have those crazy old folks saying that Corona is a myth. Like,
We still have fun.
like that's not how it works.
And this kind of cycles back to the whole thing with like the obligations that content creators have. Like clickbait titles dictate trends, and regardless of how stupid the shit you say in the video is and how ridiculously wrong it might be, at the end of the day, if someone sees the title, "Hey, I made the best blank deck," that's obviously going to that's going to influence the random Joe who's just trying to play the game, because they're like, "Oh, this deck is great." And then when that shit doesn't work out like it did in the video or whatever, then they're going to get angry. And like, granted, that could manifest in one of a couple ways, like flame reviews on your video, which, as Anteiku probably pretty intimately familiar with.
I think that's the best response, because it doesn't have a negative impact on the community. Flame it at the content creator and keep it at that.
Yes. But as a whole, like, that's how some of these trends start, is with the clickbait. And it's great for you probably as a person, but it's going to have probably negative impact on the community as a whole, because you're perpetuating these false ideologies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen it in live action, in real time, with like a couple of weeks ago with Genshin, when they introduced a new character called Zhongli, and the whole community got clickbaited that it's the most OP character, and then he's garbage, and everybody thinks it's garbage while he's actually really, really good, but nobody's listening because they got clickbaited.
It's very hard to change your preliminary impressions about something, and that's, I mean, granted, that's like social psychology priming, but at the same token, it's like be open-minded. Like, I granted that's in some cases harder for other people than or some people than others, but at the same token, if you keep your mind open to other possibilities, you will have a better time with the game, at least in my opinion.
You know, 100%. Like, that's how I approach a lot of things. Just be open-minded, because if you are close-minded or you only decide to listen to 1% of things, that means you'll miss 99% of the rest, which is probably way more than you ever see. Like, I will take that to heart to everything. Like, even when playing a card game like Vanguard. Like, if we take it to the very basic nature of Vanguard, most of the players are clan-centered. Like, they only play one clan. And in the past, I got flamed for it by playing something else besides Gear Chronicle. But at the same time, like, why confine myself to only one clan while this game is 24 clans? Like, if I only play this one clan, that's like 1/24th of the game that I'm only experiencing. Like the 24th, whatever how you could say that. Like the rest of the game, I'm not experiencing it. Like, why keep myself enclosed to such a small margin of something? This goes for everything.
Absolutely, especially like if you miss out on the other clans, there might be a strategy, might be something that's more fun in some other deck, and not to mention it keeps you from burning out too. Like, I mean, you can be diehard whatever clan you want to be, but eventually burnout is gonna set in, and you got to do something different. I think it's always healthy to have multiple clans, at least two to the three. Like, you don't want to branch out too much because, like, it depends on your budget. Now, if you can afford to, you know, take care of any clan, then that's cool. But if you're on a budget, then like one or two. That's pretty cool, because then you can.
I go broke every year because I have to get these cards. This cardboard is worth more than apparently anybody else's clan, so I don't want to hear it. You guys suck it up.
I mean, there are other ways, like area is a thing.
True.
You mean that glitch fest? But no, it definitely. It's been a great time, guys. Hopefully you guys have had a fun blast with this, but I think we all kind of covered everything. We covered all the topics. We had an amazing podcast, and I think we had a blast. So, guys, you want to
certainly did.
Let everybody know anything that might be coming up with you guys this week, or anything that might be surprising? I know we have all special events to go on.
Well, Knight just so flamed about clickbaiting and stuff that's not great. Well, like an hour ago, I just clickbaited the whole community, so that's great.
What did you do?
Yes.
Just look at my look at the video that I just uploaded. Look at the thumbnail and the title, and you know exactly what I'm referring to.
Oh, Vanguard Insider, what did you do?
I don't know, but I'm looking.
It's something about the triggers.
Oh, the secret of over triggers.
Did you?
I'm curious. I want to watch that.
Secrets revealed.
Don't be. I'm warning you now. It's a clickbait, but also not really a clickbait, but it's a clickbait.
That's dope. I'm watching that after this podcast because I want to know now.
Well, basically, what you can expect for the next coming days, weeks for me. Basically, I can sum it up in one word: overdress. Like, it's overdress time.
Everybody's talking about overdress. I'm going to be making a lot more videos on overdress, and probably more on fishy stock markets, because apparently fishy stock market is on like the decline, and I want to get my fishy stock markets in. But what about you, Anteiku?
For me, I've got a bunch of new videos lined up. I've actually got myself on a bit of a schedule, so now we got like a new video coming out every other day, as well as if you're a part of my channel or you want to join my Twitch channel. In particular, what I'm talking about right now, we do have new channel points up, espresso beans, and I do put an X in there because they're extra spicy. They're not your ordinary espresso beans, so you can change those in exchange to like make me do some weird stuff by either putting on my Anteiku mask, make me drink water, make me do bicep curls, or other neat little things that I added finally to the channel to spice it up for the viewers. But I will also be doing, as far as my YouTube stuff, I will start covering overdress, because now with the content for the game being so budget friendly, I do plan on taking it from like the ground up, like just typical running with overdress. And that feels good for me as a player because I've always enjoyed the TCG. My locals do not support it, but I do, I've talked to you guys about doing like video conferences where we can play the card game and stuff like that and still experience this new version of Vanguard. And I think that's just going to be really cool for me to actually be able to touch not only Zero, but the TCG going forward from here on out.
Which is good. And Knight's going to be pretty much screaming, hollering, and throwing his phone across the screen like normal on his stream. I'm probably guessing that. I could be wrong. You might actually be.
No, you're 150% correct.
Okay, so if you guys want to see a raving lunatic with an anger bar on the side of his screen, go over to Mr. Knight. Eventually, we're trying to get him. I don't know how much it's going to take to sell his soul, but we want Knight to become the angry Knight so that we can make this a meme.
It's happening.
Nice.
Can't believe you guys.
It's only fair.
Absolutely. Nothing but love.
I do think that there's some interesting stuff coming up, particularly from Anteiku. Not to plug him too much, but I do think he's got some other stuff that's in the works. I think you guys should stay tuned, particularly if you've got
He's looking
friends-
with eyes like, do I?
Keep that in the wraps. Nice.
just in case you guys have friends who've been considering getting into it. Just stay tuned.
And
Yes.
starting next month, I also have a collab video with Cool Gingerbeard on my birthday, which is next Thursday. We'll be doing
Happy
some
birthday.
stuff. I know.
Yes.
But
Happy birthday.
I know. I had to drop it in somewhere in the
Almost.
stream, right?
Can we sing happy birthday to him? Can we do that?
I don't know.
I'm
I
just
can
messing with
mute
you.
you.
Happy
Remember,
birthday.
I have full control. I can mute you. I don't care. You're gonna have fun with it. Go for it.
Get instantly
Nah.
copyright striked.
I know,
Happy
right? I got
birthday is not
copyrighted for birthday
copyrightable, though.
song.
The song is copyrighted. You cannot sing the original Happy Birthday song.
Really?
That is crazy.
Thanks,
Scary.
1984. We
Okay.
learned nothing from you.
Hey, look, it's a Timothy.
Ah,
But no, we got, again, it's gonna be very interesting to see everything unfold. And I mean, we also have major events probably planned. There's also a major event that I know for a fact, a major tournament from Cool Gingerbeard that's gonna introduce a new mechanic into Zero that's going to be very interesting, where we're going to have a massive contest that runs from the rest of the game on for a bit. So definitely stay tuned for that. We're going to have something very spicy. So, people are asking for a Q&A from chat. Do you guys want to answer a few questions? Let's give them like 3. Let's get chat 3 questions
Sure.
to ask.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So 3 questions, and Phaser, your question is null and void to ask if Mr. Timeleap has watched your Blau video.
Wait, Blau video?
Yeah, he was part of the video for Cardfight Con. He was one of the he talked about Blaus.
Oh yeah, I've seen a sub panel. There were some interesting segments. If he's between those, and I've seen it, Joe.
Yeah, he was one of them. Okay, chat. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask. We will let 3 questions go for it. If not, we'll just end the stream if nobody wants to ask questions. And it's only just Pfizer trying to push his interior motives. Okay, first question will be, will something happen to Cardfight Vanguard when OverDressed releases? There are skins that will be introduced that is given already, which is you need to get 100 medals, which means you got to open 1,000 Pacific packs. 100 Pacific packs. So GG, good luck, and it has to be paid medals. So they already put it behind a paywall if you want skins. So you need to spend roughly 20,000 worth of gems to do this. I don't know how people are going to feel about that.
They also talked a little bit about that they're trying. This not officially confirmed, but they're trying to get the sleeves with the new characters on it. But that's something that that's still in the works, so far as I heard.
Mm. Mm. That's really all we know so far. Like, it's very minimal what we know about the influence of OverDressed with Zero right now. Like, I'm pretty sure we'll probably see sleeves like, like we've seen G's series sleeves now in Zero. So like, I'm pretty sure we'll eventually see other sleeves and other little character skins somewhere along the way for like events or just some kind of special occasion, probably.
So an Italian e-market called TCG Generations put the trial decks for $450 and the boxes are at $50. What do you think about those prices? So basically, what do you guys feel are about the pretty much cheapness and fairness of the boxes? I really am more interested on knowing, personally, from my opinion on the boxes, depends on the ratio. If you can tell me I can do what the the volume boosters are for premium is called, the fighters collections that they're doing, the two of them. If you're telling me I could only need to buy 4 boxes and I can get a full playset of everything, I kind of can get behind that and say I will drop $200 and I get everything.
I personally don't think that this is going to be the case for the new sets, because they already told us that in every single box they're going to be an SP, and they're going to be a lot of high rarity different cards. So if I'm looking at the ratios that we have right now, and I don't mean the ratios in the box themselves, but in the actual set with the amount of different cards, it feels a lot more like Pokemon, where every single box will hold a special card, which makes it really nice for collectors to crack open multiple box after box after box, where you all see these unboxing channels for Pokemon. Every single day they open a box and they pull something special. I think that is the direction they're trying to take the Vanguard boxes as well. So
Don't tell me
probably
that. I don't want to spend money.
so probably
You're going to spend money.
you're 100% going to spend money.
No, I don't want to spend money.
Like Kagero card. You're going to spend money.
No, I am not. I will die on that hill.
So I probably see them like what we are used to, but then with more high rarity stuff in them, as seen as one box will contain an SP. So that makes buying a box a bit more interesting for collectors as well.
Yeah, that
I said it. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Kyle. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm definitely agreeing. SPs definitely help out a lot, just because now it makes SP saturation a little bit easier, because the fact of the matter is making high rarity cards makes lesser rarity cards very much more profitable, and now it makes it probably a little bit easier in the secondary market when you're trying to max rarity things a little bit better.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, already from just a retail standpoint, like the price range is phenomenal. Like that, I'm sorry, but $3.99 for a trial deck, a whole deck of cards. That's better than Yu-Gi-Oh. That's better than Pokemon. That's better than Magic.
That's better than everyone.
Everyone, like, it's better than Vanguard itself. Because, like, I said it earlier. Now you can get, for the price of originally, almost. I mean, there's some like little dollar here, dollar there differences, but for the price of one original trial deck, you can now get almost 3 copies of now one of the OverDressed. So, like, again, if you really want to flush out the foils from the trial decks, depending on how many there are, this is so budget friendly that for almost $16, man, under $20, you can get 4 copies of one trial deck, and then that you can get all 4 copies of any foil, whatever it may be, in those trial decks, unless they start doing like the special print foils that we saw in like G and V era, where like you can play Russian roulette and hope you get like that special signed card or whatever it was. But still, it's very budget friendly and affordable. And I'm a huge fan of affordable. Not only that, but the boxes, like a whole booster box, are $50. Are you kidding me? Like before, it was like what, like closer to 80 for a booster box or something like that. So now you're almost getting 2 booster boxes for almost the price of one.
You're pretty much getting an extra booster box for.
Yeah, it depends a bit on the location, because apparently so for Italian it's $4.50 for a trial deck and $50 for a box. For me, Netherlands, it's the trial decks are a bit cheaper. They're $4 or €4, but the boxes are a bit more expensive. They're 60, around 60-ish. But still, that's way
Okay.
cheaper than what we had before. Because
Yeah,
before,
exactly.
products were in the Netherlands were about 15, 14 to 16-ish, and the sets were more around 70. So it's still a lot cheaper.
Okay.
Absolutely.
As much as I want to give Phaser that last question, he's asking another question is, now that we know that D1 plus BTO1 we will have support from the trial decks and new strategies for the nation, what can we expect to see? Like a Blau, but I don't think so, sad. Like he's trying to see if our opinions on like what we can expect, and we really can't expect anything because we don't have all the information at the moment. We kind of got some fancy arts, but we got a synopsis on what they do. Like
the only thing that we can expect is that they're going to support multiple strategies or multiple decks in a singular set, because the only thing they confirmed is that in the set, they're going to support 2 different strategies for every single nation. So that means 5 nations, so that's 10 different strategies, so 10 decks out of set 1, and probably one of those is a continuation from the trial deck. So probably the trial deck plus upgrade, and then the bigger chunk, a bit more of the cards probably, will then dedicate for the new support because they don't have the trial decks to begin with. That's what I assume.
Yeah.
It's also what Different Fight and Solemn are thinking, because that's the only thing that we have right now. This the only thing that we can speculate about. But I assume that this is going to also be the pattern going forward, that are not going to support only one deck per nation in a set. Probably at least 1 plus extra. It can be 2 or maybe 1.5. Could be probably the direction.
At that point, it's kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh, because of how like Yu-Gi-Oh did their archetypes, and like they would, you had Stellar Knights, or you had God, like Utopia. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff. It's been so long since I played Yu-Gi-Oh. Cyber Dragons, E-Heroes, whatever. It's like every so often you got like an archetype support within a booster, and it kind of circled around those certain particular archetypes and what kind of decks you were trying to make. And I mean, I think going from this point forward, I think that's something like what you're saying, Mr. Timely, that we can expect to see going forward, because we really don't know. I know people are asking like, will we see a Draconic Overlord? Will we see Blaster Blade? Who knows? Like right now we're looking at a time frame of 3,000 years in the future. Do those cards or those units still exist, or
well, we know for a fact that Alfred. We know for a fact that Alfred is dead.
Yeah, they murdered him on the side of the streets like he was an evil tyrant.
So I assume that we're not going to see most of the old units. I would say don't expect it. However, I have one theory that might come to pass, but this is a big might iffy thing. Like if we go back to the Jira, strides were future possibilities of units that were from the future. So seeing as this is in the future, there is a possibility that some of those older strides might have a comeback here, but maybe not necessarily the same unit, but units that look like it. Because if we go back to the Chronojet ripoff unit, he does have some similarities with Ziegenberg, which was a Kagero stride that came out of nowhere. It doesn't. Ziegenberg didn't really was a continuation of an old unit like a Overlord stride, for example. So this could be something like that we might see units that are derived off stride units that we see in the Jira without actually being those strides units.
Well, you see the artwork for the one Royal Paladin unit. I can't think of his name, but he's like on the steed.
It looks
like he looks like Blade,
or whatever his name was.
He Gallblade, the original stride for Royals that could shoot a damage. He basically looks like him.
Exactly.
So that's why there's a possibility that we might look at units or artwork that are inspired by older strides, because those are the only units that might have some recollection of some indication to this new future era.
But that would be cool if they did actually tie it back to G. Like if we actually get to see or experience the future that we were kind of glimpsing at in those units, I think that would be really cool from like a lore standpoint if they go that route.
Well, it would make sense because again, let's take into like a good point in lore wise, Blaster Blade is chosen by the sword, not the other way around. It is the hero. So we can get Blaster Blade, Blaster Dark again because in lore wise they are both from the swords, not the other way around.
Not the right.
The human can die, but as long as the sword survives, you can have another one pick up the sword. But here's another good question though. Is actually another person asked was, what are some predictions on how triggers, shield values are going to work? Are we keeping fronts or going back to stands? Are we going to go back to OG shield values for triggers? I don't think we're going to dive back from 10,000 triggers. I think we're going to stick with 10,000 triggers. I think
what has been confirmed so far is that fronts are going to be a thing. We saw an image about the new playmat that's going to be in a box stopper of the case. It showcased the artwork with the triggers on the trigger zone, which showcased crits, heals, draws, fronts, and over triggers. They showed 5 icons, which were those 5 triggers, which means fronts are going to get a comeback. The only thing that might change, but what we saw so far, were the shield value on the Grade 0 and the Grade 1 Vanilla, which both had 5k shield, which means we're probably going to go back to a lower shield value. This is the reason why I also talked about and speculated about potential weird deck building. Because of the right deck, we can open up the deck building itself, because we don't have to build towards right consistency. And as seen as Grade 1s are going to go back to 5k, which probably means that Grade 1s and Grade 2s will have the same shield value, lowers the reason to use Grade 1s or play Grade 1s in your deck for just the increase or decrease of shield value. The only reason why you now want to play Grade 1s are just for boosters or maybe really good skills. But probably in the beginning of OverDressed, those skills will probably be not there.
Yeah.
So depending if those artworks that we saw were just stock artworks or they on purposely showed that, then we might see regressing shield values. But as far as trigger powers, we saw nothing. We haven't have information about that.
I think it's cool though that they did do the right deck, because from a trigger standpoint, your chances of actually hitting triggers actually kind of increases now, because now you've taken out the 1, 2, and 3 from the deck that weren't triggers, and now that gives you a little bit of a higher chance of hitting one. In my opinion, looking at it from a positive standpoint, I haven't quite seen the negative of it yet, of them having a right deck.
Well, what we can confirm also is that there looks like there's no ideal for Grade 4 at the moment, because the ride deck is a 0, 1, 2, 3. But again, we could get something later, and that is fast.
Well, the reason why I think they did that is because could you ever G assist for a Grade 4?
No, you couldn't.
Exactly. So I think that's the reason why they did 1, 2, and 3, because 1, 2, and 3 is what every clan or every nation is gonna have access to. Grade 4s were always a bit exclusive to certain decks and certain clans, so that's why I don't think they're gonna use the Grade 4, because it immediately gives unfair advantage to clans or decks that use the Grade 4.
True.
But let's now, before we wrap it up, let's get everybody's choice of what they're going to go for when they first start off. So when these new trial decks, what are you actually buying into? Let's go with Vanguard Insider today. Let's see what is he harboring in thoughts for his first round of set of supplies.
Well, of course, I would say Dark States, because Gear Chronicle, but the problem is the main guy on the front is Spike Brothers, and I have absolutely nothing with Spike Brothers. And then at the same time, I have nothing with Kagero, but Chrono Jet is apparently the new Overlord, so I probably have to go with that. So, but at the same time, I don't have to make a choice, because I decided to buy every trial deck and just order a case and be done with it. So I'm curious everything.
This man here.
Well, I'm probably gonna main Dark States, of course, and I'm gonna look forward to what that new Chrono Jet like card is gonna do. Probably that's gonna be either that's gonna be my main deck, or that's gonna be my side deck while I main Dark States.
Okay, so he's not following the hashtag MegmoMe or whatever else.
No. Different fighters, Solomite, they can destroy each other while doing that, and I will rise in the aftermath. I will rise as the victorious one over them.
I'm just gonna stay on my whale and just call it a day.
You're gonna see like different fight and Solemn just laying on the ground dead, and there's gonna be time like, ha ha ha, ha I got you, mortals.
Only there with the Thor's hammer above them. I'm victorious.
Man.
So Anteiku,
Awesome.
what deck are you? What is your main focus?
I've got 2 actually. It's gonna be Dragon Empire and then Brant, because I'm a huge fan of Dimensional Police Nova and the Max and Jokers, and with Void being referenced again, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see Jokers pop their head back into the series. But Dragon Empire, definitely, I've learned through the years to let go of paladins and the sanctuary stuff, and that I really do like Dragon Empire as a whole. So I know already, I've already locked in 2 sets of trial decks already, and plan on next time I get a chance is I'm going to be locking in my boosters. So definitely Dragon Empire and Brant for the win.
I mean, that's a good excuse to get away with playing with female police cops.
Shush! That's the only thing I'm not happy about. Oh, it's the only thing I'm not happy about. I'm just like, really? Okay.
Is it really what you're unhappy about? Is it really?
As they're sitting here, this dude's got waifus up the rear, and I'm like, I gotta deal with
she
furry
looks like
animals.
the waifu. She looks like Seto Kaiba's waifu, man. Like, if we're being honest, like female Seto, but I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it.
So
Knight.
I'm kind of on the fence between Keter Sanctuary and the Dark States, and here's why. Keter, I think it depends on how heavily influenced Shadow Paladins are in Keter Sanctuary, because they, of the Paladins, them and I guess Gold Paladins are kind of really the only United Sanctuary clans I really just wow me. But like with Dark States, I think the concepts of like just how they're like basically Transylvania on steroids is kind of interesting, particularly with Dark Irregulars and Pale Moon, how they're basically just like these nightmarish creatures of the night, which is really cool. But I think it boils down to how much influence there is with Shadow Paladins in Keter Sanctuary before I like go one way or the other.
Okay. And mine, of course, is Lyrica Monstratio. And then I can never pronounce this other one because
Stoikea?
Stoikea, yeah. The Great Nature Aquaforce fusion thing. Because at least we know there's going to be Grand Blue in it eventually, because we saw the Undead panel. And I kind of like that they kind of fused the 2 nations of Stoikea together, because literally at the end of the day, they were 95% cookie cutter paste. There was really no difference. You had, what? Great Nature, Aquaforce, Bermuda, kind of all just do multi-attack, not everything. And then you had Neonectars as well, doing kind of a multi-attack function back in the day. But now it's like, okay, now we're going to just combine them all together. We had the oddballs, yes, but it's really awesome to finally see Marines and Pirates getting together, because who would ever thought that they would be on the same battlefield?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Well, I mean, it happens every episode in One Piece, so not that I'm
Just, and I'm going to build a deck and call it One Piece.
I feel bad now because I butchered the nation name in my video because I couldn't figure out exactly how you were supposed to like pronounce that. And I think I was going
to. It took me like 5 days to learn that pronunciation.
I think it was called like Stoacia or something like that. Stoikea. Okay, because I was like Stoacia. Or like that. I was like,
I put every time I put an R at the beginning, which there is not even an R to be found. I like to say Stroikea, but there's no R there.
There's no R.
So what I'm getting from this is to go brigade Anteiku's video and make fun of him.
I totally endorse that.
Everybody go put dislikes because he does not support #Megameme. Team Megameme, go for it. Nah. I'm just excited because both will be very interesting. And who knows, I might actually drop Stoikea in general if they make like Token Rambu and everybody else fall under like this kind of like TCG exclusive like umbrella, make a 7th nation isk, and then we kind of have our own like that way. I'll just go that way and just enjoy living off that high and just smack people around with TCG exclusives.
For sure.
But guys, thank you for all coming out, and thank you so much. I will now proceed to bring it to the studio screen, so everybody go ahead and say your goodbyes and everything like that. So go ahead and we'll go around the room. We'll have Knight go off, then Anteiku, and then Vanguard Insider can sign off the last.
Well, as usual, people, stay safe, stay fun, and enjoy your card games. Take care.
And as always, guys, please stay strong, stay healthy, and happy gaming.
And as always, everybody, this is Ride My Avatar signing off. Remember to support your fellow small streamers and content creators because, again, they're all the foundations where we all start at from. And, you know, they'll never get better unless you give them some feedback. So, good luck.
Well, it was an honor and a pleasure to be on here, guys. For anybody that watched it, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, I've been Mr. Time Leap, and we all here will see you guys in the next one.
Awesome. So you guys are muted. I am